Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Very Biased Opinions. At the time you'll be watching this video, will be at least 3 days removed from the game against Scotland. So the feeling has kind of settled down, although some people, namely me, are still calling it the worst England performance of all time in a terrible and dire 0-0 draw against Scotland. Side note, well done to Scotland, by the way. Thought you played great. But we were going to we didn't do a review video of it, so we're kind of throwing in a little review of that, a little post-mortem, if you like, in with our predictions for the game against Czech Republic. We thought we'd do it in a separate video because we'll be talking forever, and that other video would go on for a long time. So this is an England sort of recap on that terrible game. Looking forward to the Czech game. Tom, where do you want to start? Do you want to just fly into it off a long run and start talking about things you hated and things that annoyed you, or do you? No, I don't think we need to dissect the game bit by bit.
No, we'll be here all night. First thing I want to say is I don't understand a football manager changing half of his defense in the second match after they've kept a clean sheet. I think it sends the wrong message to just about the entire defensive unit, and I think it's actually insane. I thought Luke Shaw should have started in the first game at left back. I didn't really care who played at right back. We had about 95 options. I believe something like 2/3 of the entire squad are actually right backs now. So I don't understand how Kyle Walker didn't keep his place. In all honesty, I don't understand how Kieran Trippier didn't keep his place, or how one of them didn't start on the right, but Reece James started on the right, Luke Shaw started on the left, and the defence looks like he had no idea what it was doing.
Let's talk about the positives. I thought Pickford was good. He's absolved of all...
That stop.
Yeah, he was. I thought his goalkeeping was tidy. I thought his decision making was good. He didn't make any errors or mistakes, so he's exonerated from any criticism. Well done to you, Jordan. And also, yeah, Mings, and I thought Stones was all right as well. But yeah, I mean, basically, Gareth Southgate got really outcoached by Steve Clarke in this game.
Oh yeah. Oh, He's been completely outmaneuvered by a squad that have one world-class player in it, one quality player in it, and then it are full of workman-like, hard-working players that are glue in a team, but they're not a team. Like John McGinn is not a leading centre midfielder, and he made most of England look poor. Yep. Right? This is not a guy that can unpick a defence. This is not a guy that goes on a charging run and beats 5 men, and yet he made every single midfielder in England look average, and that was... we talked about this off camera. I blame more on the manager than I do on the players, because it felt like the England team were put out there to frustrate a substandard side in comparison to them. It felt like the whole game plan was to frustrate Scotland, not to win a football match.
Which seems absolutely bizarre to me. And I thought Scotland's game plan was really spot on. And I know Steve Clarke's done that when he was Kilmarnock at Boss. He's had games where they've had good results and performances against Rangers and Celtic, so he knows how to set his teams up. But I mean, I sent you a picture earlier on, didn't I, of the attacking players in the England squad and how many goals and assists they've scored. They have between them, in the Premier League and the Champions League. And it's something like 120 goals, 90 odd assists. And yet we've scored 1 goal in 2 games against 2 pretty average sides. And I thought we were, in both games, in the first game we got an excuse because of the weather. In this one they're using an excuse again of the weather. It was too wet, apparently. But what I didn't like is it's the first 10 minutes we go out to win. And then we go into in both halves. And then we go into, right, let's not lose mode.
But let's also talk about the fact that this team plays like it's like a level 2 footballing side, right? They move the ball up the right. It gets to the winger, who squares at the defender and goes, oh, no, I don't want to do this. He plays it back to the centre midfielder, who plays it back to the right back. The right back plays it to the centre back plays it centre midfielder to the other centre back to the left back to the left. And you're like, it's taken 10 minutes. And there were multiple points in this game where specifically Mason Mount, and you could see him on screen, had both his hands in the air, screaming for a 30-yard pass, just ping it across. Yeah, I'm on the halfway line.
The lack of risk was really poor from the players. And I thought the speed... they've talked about it, definitely. You're absolutely right. The speed, they've got the ball... England controlled the ball and passed the ball around with was just boring. really. It was so slow. And I don't understand it, because we've seen that Phillips can be better than that. We saw it in the last game. We know Rice can be better than that. So why are they playing so static? Why are they playing like so scared to give the ball away?
Well, what's perplexing as well is it's coming down to some weird team selections as well, right? Harry Kane is out of sorts. Harry Kane came off in this. That is actually a mark for Gareth Southgate. He was able to take possibly the biggest personality on the pitch off and go, you're not doing it right now. He replaced him with essentially a left winger and put him at striker. But irrespective of that, how is Raheem Sterling still starting and playing for this side? His touch is awful. He never beats his man. He doesn't create new space. Phil Foden was the best of the three attackers, and he came off first. And Jack Grealish is quite clearly the most talented player in Great Britain right now. Fuck England, in Great Britain. Possibly one of the most talented footballers on earth right now. And you wait till the 73rd minute or something to bring him on. In 17 minutes of play, he won something like 9 fouls and was the only player in both teams that looked like he could just dribble through each other. Like, it's selection. He is the sort of player that make England dynamic. And when Mason Mount and him played together, all of a sudden you saw Luke Shaw start to do overlapping runs. There is something missing in this team. And it feels like Gareth Southgate doesn't want to figure out what the missing link is. He wants to bore the opposition to death.
They were too worried about conceding goals going into the tournament. So there's an over sort of general consensus to try and be very solid and not give anything away against anybody. But I thought we were really poor out of possession against Scotland as well. I thought it was really easy for them to get up the pitch and get through the lines. And I don't think we pressed them very well at all. And which is, I don't really understand why we didn't do that either. I don't think Grealish had a great game. I think he came on slightly earlier than what you said. But, you know, again, he's not always going to come on and change every single game. That's usually why you start him, to give him the time to get into games and do that. I know why Sterling played, because he scored the goal and the winner, so he kind of felt he owed it to him to play him again. But he should have taken him off. I agree with you there. I agree he should have taken Kane off. But don't bring Rashford on. Don't bring Rashford on as a number 9 centre forward. No. He never plays there. It's not his position. Like,
absolutely
you've got Calvert-Lewin. That is why he is there, to replace Kane. He is always going to be the replacement for Kane. So why would you bring Rashford on? Rashford should have come on for Sterling.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Rashford should have come on for Sterling. Personally, Grealish, probably Foden or Mount. But, like, where's Sancho? Where's Sancho?
Where is Sancho? Where is Jadon Sancho in that game? Why didn't he make more changes? Why didn't he try and introduce Bellingham? You didn't even have Saka on the bench.
He made 2 subs in the whole game. Like, where's Jordan Henderson? Grealish comes on, you're right, it's the 63rd minute. Rashford comes on, okay, cool. Where is Sancho? Where is Calvert-Lewin? And where is Jude Bellingham? You had 3 more subs to make. I can name you 3 good players you could have put on the pitch. You put Henderson on the pitch because he's won a fucking Champions League and he'll push the team forward.
He would.
Like, it's just the whole point of having... He doesn't use his squad, and then he preaches squad rotation and stuff like that. And then he rotates the defenders. What is the last championship-winning side you saw that's like, well, our back four is completely interchangeable. We don't really care who we got. We can put anyone out there. Have you seen Harry Maguire? He can't run in a straight line, but we might...
Norwich. They won the championship.
They did win the chip. But it's just...
He changed it every week. Every week they were in and out. Revolving door.
For me, this also... But, like, it's starting to beg the question of, like, if you want a second option to Harry Kane, why is Vardy not in the squad? Why didn't you...
Why is Bamford not... What? Take Bamford. Where's Danny Ings? Well, any of these players...
Many players. Many players. But we picked initial squad of 4 right backs. When a right back went down, we picked a centre back to replace him instead of a midfielder. James Ward-Prowse, who could probably do a job. We've seen the insane level of energy he brings to a midfield.
Aubameyang?
Yes, Aubameyang could have been in at striker.
Usual things have come up, Tom. Fitness of players, intensity of the Premier League. I can't stand those excuses.
It has nothing to do with it whatsoever. Every other player who's in the Premier League who goes and plays, like look at N'Golo Kante today for France. It was the 90th minute and he was scampering about like an absolute madman. Like,
agree.
I don't.
Totally agree.
Paul Pogba looks as fittest I've ever seen him in a France shirt. So I really don't. I don't buy it. It's just anybody we love.
Anybody. Sorry to interrupt you. Anybody that uses that excuse, you're looking in the wrong place for finding the fault there. Because as you just said, other players in the Premier League who play for other countries, they look great. You talk to someone about
Andy
Mourinho.
Robertson, Scott McTominay.
Yeah.
Both had fantastic games.
Exactly. You look at Mourinho, what he says on TalkSport about England having all their players that play in the Premier League. He says that's a massive advantage. He says those players are used to playing under pressure. They're used to playing in the most intense league. That can only be a good thing when you get them all together.
What in Christ's name is Gareth Southgate coming out and saying, like, the interviewer literally goes, it was slow, it was lethargic. What do you want? Suddenly went, I actually thought it was too frantic. I thought they were frantic. What England team were you watching play football? That was that made Spain today look quick.
I think maybe I have a feeling he meant that when they did get into some good areas, the decision making wasn't very good, which I can understand. But yeah, it's not very good phrasing. But that does bring me on to just something about Southgate. It's just say, and the last thing we'll kind of touch on this game is what would you have done? And I think you've kind of answered it, but just to try and be as concise as this, what would you have done if you were like manager of England for that game? How would you have gone into it? How maybe would you have changed it?
I think Walker would have stayed at right back. Shaw would have come in at left back. The midfield of Mount, Rice and Phillips works perfectly well. You'd have kept Harry Kane up front because you don't really have a choice. I would have dropped Sterling. I wouldn't have put him in the team. If he's really willing to rotate out players that have played well, and Trippier and Walker did a perfectly good job and he rotated them right out the team. You rotate out Sterling, you put Grealish in, you have Grealish and Foden flanking Kane. There's this huge emphasis in England where we keep talking about the speed. We need more speed up front. We didn't play a ball in behind. We never play a ball in behind. So I'd rather have Jack Grealish, who's a ball player on the pitch, able to do whatever he wants. He can take a good free kick as well. And I'd have given Foden the chance. And then if you're struggling for goals, and the amount of interviews that have been done with Sir Alex Ferguson in the last year is actually painstaking. But he keeps talking about you flood the box with players. It's better to just risk it and flood the box with players. The pressure teams feel when you just camp in their half and you keep pinging balls into the box is huge. And we see it all the time when a team's trying to hold out a 1-0 lead. And you're just like, the other team's going to score. The other team's definitely going to score because they're just nailing them. Dominic Calvert-Lewin should have come on. They should have taken off a center mid and put him there. And quite honestly, Declan Rice has never won anything. He's a really good player. He's never won. Why doesn't Henderson come on for the final 20 minutes to manage the game? Like, we do have a young team. Why is Phillips out there? You could have brought in a more level head that knows more. It's a very, very young side. And you have the players on the bench that can do it. You've got Sancho, who's won trophies in Germany. Like, you could bring him on for Foden with 20 minutes left, and he's electric. But the subs
I disagree with the plural. I think he's won a trophy. Is it all Southgate though, Tom? I mean, I know the answer to that, and I'll do a quick impression of you. Is he's the manager, man. He carries the can, man. But
it's his job.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. But do the players not need to take some responsibility when they're on the pitch? They're all world class, well, not world class, but they all play to a high standard. They must have seen that it was like a bit crap and not going well. Does not one of them need to take the opportunity to change it and be a leader out there?
Yeah, I think they were let down, and that players like Harry Kane didn't step up, and Raheem Sterling's put in there because he's the most capped England player, but he's not a leader. And the problem is you're asking like Declan Rice, who's like 20, or Mason Mount, who's like 20, or Phil Foden, who's 19, or Luke Shaw, who's literally only completed one full season in the Premier League since his like debut one, or Reece James. Like when you name these players, they're really young, and the confidence should be coming from Gareth Southgate, and he's basically telling them, I don't know my best 11, I don't think you're good enough to win this game, and there is no plan B. And you look at the club sides they play for, and none of them have a manager like that, except maybe Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But like, Thomas Tuchel is probably the most single-minded manager you're ever going to find in football, outside of maybe, I don't know, Pep Guardiola. Kane's just played 2 seasons under Jose Mourinho. Like, Declan Rice plays under David Moyes, who, despite all his setbacks, is still steely-eyed, incredibly strong-willed, and builds his teams on like rock-solid ideas. Like, we are defensive first, we grind down. And then you get Gareth Southgate, who comes into tournaments saying we're not the finished product, and you look at him on the sideline as well, and he's not. I know it's bullshit, but he's not exuding confidence. He's not exuding the knowledge that he has one of the best squads on earth, and they're not playing that way. And that's the easiest thing to change, is to have a manager in there that actually makes the players think they can win the game.
It's a good point you make about Kane, because I think that the only way Kane feels he can impact a game if he's not getting the services to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And we've talked about it to death, so we don't need to go on about it. But it is really frustrating why he just can't think, well, if I just stay in the middle and start telling them to go a bit more direct, maybe we might start to create a few more chances. But that game has come and gone, as disappointing as it was. It does leave England pretty much through on 4 points out of 2 games, with the way Euro 2020 is, and 3 sides going through, unless you're really bad. 4 points should pretty much get you through. And we go into this game with the Czech Republic knowing that a win will win us the group, and a draw will probably, we'll get a second place, and maybe an easier path. So let's just quickly say, what would your England side be for the game against the Czech Republic?
Pickford in goal, Stones and Mings centre back, Walker right back.
You wouldn't play Maguire at all?
Nope.
Okay, I'm just checking. The only reason I say it is I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just saying, if you don't play Maguire in any group stages, how can you risk him in a knockout?
You just answered the question right there. You can't. Okay. You can't play an injured player in a knockout match.
Okay, but he's not injured.
Fully fit. Walker's right back. Luke Shaw's the left back. Luke Shaw he's probably the best left-footed player we have in the team. Honestly, I really like the midfield of Rice, Phillips, and Mount, because Phillips drives forward like an absolute madman, and I would give the younger players a chance to do that. I think Kane has to start up front. And honestly, I'm not making huge changes to this England side outside of Foden and Grealish. Foden and Grealish should be behind Kane. They're 2 of the most creative players we have, and they deserve the shot.
To give Kane a rest and bring him back in for the knockouts? Or do you need to get him up to speed? You need to get him a goal?
It feels like he's sluggish, and I don't know how another break is going to help him. I feel like he needs to play. He needs to get a goal. We really.
That's a good point.
We kind of need Jack Grealish to win a penalty, which he tends to do quite a lot, and then Harry Kane to score it and just feel like he's the man again, because he looks low on confidence. And if England are going to go far in this tournament, DCL ain't the man to do it. It is Harry Kane, the top scorer in the Premier League and the top assister in the Premier League. Like, if we can't win with Kane, we can't win.
And will Czech Republic be the biggest test we faced so far?
I don't know, Ian. It's tough, because Czech Republic had moments where they were the better side against Croatia, like much better, and they had moments where Croatia made them look average. And I think on their day, the Czech Republic are actually quite a good side, and I think Schick is a really handy goal scorer, and I think he may well have a really good career in Europe to follow what's going on in this tournament. He's really showcased his skills. But I look at this England team on paper, and we should have won every single one of these games 3 or 4 goals to nil. So I can't. Yeah. I'm not going to give up on what I saw when we came into the tournament. Maybe it's the biggest test, but we are so much better than this Czech Republic side.
I agree. I think you've pretty much hit the nail on the head. They've got good players. We've highlighted the good players. I mean, so far from what I've seen, they rely a lot on Kufal getting down the right-hand side, getting the quality balls into Schick. He is a handful to deal with. He's not the best striker, though. I mean, that was an extremely lucky penalty that they got against Croatia. And in both games, Croatia and Scotland caused Czech Republic a lot of problems at the back, and could have easily won the game. You know, Souček's also a dangerous player. Darida is also a dangerous player in there as well, but not. I mean, they've not got anyone. I mean, like how Croatia had like Modric and Kovacic and stuff like that, and Perisic. They haven't got anyone really, I would say, to that level where you really could be worried about them. And you would like to think, although again, we know it's not going to be England playing with any style. It's going to be pragmatic over being anything stylistic.
Do you think if Jack Grealish, Mason Mount, and Phil Foden have the chance to link up, Do you not think that even if England are pragmatic, it's going to look so much better than it does with a player like Sterling basically dead-ending it?
I hope so,
every
Thomas.
time the ball comes to him is
I hope so. I see your point, and I hope so, but I just have after that game, I have no confidence that England are going to go into a game and be able to have sustained pressure over a side.
Yeah.
They're going to do what they've done. They're going to pick their moments in a half where they are on top, then they're going to stand off, and then they're going to look to defend. And I think that if you offered Gareth Southgate 0-0 now, he would snap your hand off and say, thank you very much, we'll take second place and we'll deal with the knockout phases, whoever we get.
Yeah, I think you're right. But Ian, I think it's time for predictions.
Yes, I will go first, if you don't mind. I'm just going to say I think England are going to be dull, but I do think they'll win. And for the first time this tournament, I'm going for an England win. I'm going for a 1-0 England victory.
Yeah, I'm going to have to echo that because that's the safest result we can say, whilst also not showing weakness, because it is, I think, going to be very dull. And I do not think Jack Grealish will start this game. I think almost the exact same side that started the Scotland match will start. And I think he will act like that's him being brave. But I wouldn't be surprised if yet again he rotates defenders for no reason. And I think you're right. Harry Maguire is going to start this game.
Do you remember what we said about Bamford? How he's the sort of player that he needs to almost score every game to get an England call-up. And if he... And then if he plays for England, if he doesn't score, he'll be straight out the side again. I get the feeling Grealish is like that. If he brings him on and he doesn't instantly change the game and do something magical, then he's like, well, I'm going to put you. You're just still a bench player. You're a fringe player. And I think that Gareth Southgate sees him as a fringe player in this England side. Unfortunately, I'd like to see him play more. I think Rashford might start in the game. I think he might start on the left-hand side coming in.
I think Sterling starts no matter what, and I think that is, at the end of the day, what's going to kill this England side, because this isn't me hating Raheem Sterling. He is the definition of not on form, and when he gets the ball, you don't ever think he's going to score. And also, when he gets the ball, he's dropping deep to get it, and then he's starting to run forward at defenders, and he's much better at receiving the ball when sprinting. It's the same for Phil Foden, and both of them at City, when they get the ball, are generally in full flight, whereas in England, they're getting it with their back to goal, and they're coming back to receive it, and then they turn around, and you're like, well, they've lost all their impetus, and all of a sudden they get crowded out. So
yeah,
sorry.
It's absolutely fine. It is stressful and it does get annoying. And again, the trouble is you want England to do well, and every time they play, you get drawn into the hype of it and everything like that. And this game was obscenely hyped against Scotland, and the fact it was a poor game just made it even worse. But I mean, there's permutations in there about who we're going to play. It does look like if we come second, it is the easier path, although Group F has taken a few twists and turns today from what we've seen.
Hungary. We want Hungary.
We want Hungary. We are hungry for Hungary. And also on the clean sheet thing for England, I'm not sure why we get so crazy about that, because we haven't played anyone good. So we haven't been tested.
Scotland are one of the greatest sides in Europe. Croatia just came second in a World Cup, Ian. We are basically the second best country on earth.
Yeah.
But I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know why they're talking about Italy so much when we've got a solid defence. Like Sweden, we haven't conceded a goal. But look, I've just done a little list here. There's been a lot of talk about who's better than England and teams we want to avoid. I've done a little list here, so if you just permit me, I'm just going to run through them. Italy, Switzerland, Turkey, Belgium, Denmark, Russia, Finland, Holland, Austria, Ukraine, Macedonia, Spain, Sweden, Slovakia, Poland, France, Portugal, Germany, and Hungary. I think all of those sides are better than England. So if we can avoid any of those teams, I think we're doing all right. So that does basically leave us who we've got in the group and Wales.
Bring on Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey. At least that'll be a fun 0-0 draw to watch. Right, Ian, thank you for doing this with me. I think we were both more stressed out than when we even began it. All that's left for me to do is thank our Patreon backers. Thank you, PJ Simpson, Matthew Bowden, Robert Allen, and the evergreen Christina Allen. Thank you all for your support. If you guys want to keep supporting the channel, please have a look on the screen, have a look below. That's our Patreon details. But at the least, please smash the like button, hit subscribe, and comment below on how you think England are going to do against the Chechens.